Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you to the first Corporate Connect that the TiE Pune chapter has launched as of today. And we have Mr. Jagdish Belwal, who is the CIO of Tata Motors, to be the part of this August gathering, and he will kind of have a word with Mr. Deshpande, who is co-founder of Mojo Networks. He is the president of TiE Pune as well. Previously, he was the CEO of Tech Mahindra from 1996 to 2001 and had senior positions at IMR Global. He's done his graduation from BITS Pilani and IIT Mumbai, and also part of IEEE in very senior roles. What I'd like to do now is to call upon Mr. Deshpande here so that he can speak about his vision about the Corporate Connect program for TiE, and then subsequently, take the evening forward. Over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, friends. One of my ex-boss used to say, the whole purpose of an enterprise is to create a customer. And that is the overriding idea, principle for all of us. And it gets more complex and hence more exciting, at times frustrating, when we create a venture ourselves. Because when we are creating a company, we are not known. The customer space we don't know, and they also don't know us. So, as a part of our progress at Pune, which we have had phenomenal progress over the last 3, 4, 5 years, we want to extend this to the customer space, where we can see if we can reach out to C-level officers, decision makers in different business and industry, and see if we can get them here to share their ideas, what they are looking for, and see if we can do some marriage of having some of them as our customers, which helps them, because we I always say that the whole idea of a startup is speed and execution. So we can do better than many of the established players if you know what we're doing for the customer, and they get help because that's what we offer. Last year, when I was interacting with some of the people at C-level, a couple of times this question popped up. In this area, do you know a startup, now that you're in TiE Pune, that can do this for me? Well, sometimes I knew, sometimes I did not. And there were times when we struggled here to reach out to Jagdish Belwal to see if he can offer something. And his problem is, where does he go to look for a good startup? So this is a match, and Jagdish, welcome to TiE Pune. And you're kind of a beta right now for us. You're the first CIO here. So, I spent like an hour and a half conversing with Jagdish a couple of days back. So, so what we'll do is we try and understand Tata Motors, we try and understand what his vision is, what his ideas are, what the priorities are, and try and see if there is something that we can do for Tata Motors and what Tata Motors can do for us in both ways. So that's what we're trying to do here. It's a conversational fireside chat format. We'll spend about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for question and answer. We'll try and make sure that there is more time for Q&A, so that each one of you has a time to participate with Jagdish. And I'm hoping that this journey will begin here, not end here.
It also makes me less scared instead of standing on a dais and speaking.
Exactly.
I mean, whatever you say, all of us still have stage fright.
Every time we make a presentation, there's a little bit of a going right up.
We need this, are we audible at the back?
No. I think you use it.
I think we use it then.
It's a good idea to use it. Just to give you a little bit of few seconds, my company Mojo Networks, which used to be called A-Type Networks till last year, has been a vendor to Tata Motors, and credit goes to them for trusting us with everything that we are trying to do over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's how the relationship has built. And it has come in very handy in terms of what we are trying to do at TiE, the Corporate Connect program. So Jagdish, could you sort of help us understand when did you join Tata Motors, which college did you come from, and what were the early years at Tata Motors for you?
Okay. So, I'm a mechanical engineer from MNREC Allahabad, and now it has been renamed as MNNIT Allahabad. So I joined Tata Motors in '94 as a GT, and he said, I think I'm a mechanical engineer. So I was in customer service, and that too in excavators. And the peculiarity was that Tata Motors works through dealers, and in excavators we did not have dealers. And I deliberately took that area because there were no dealers, so you get to work with your own hands, and you're like just out of the college mechanical engineers. वो पाना चलाना था. Well, chalaya, but it was tougher than what we expected. But yes, it was very enjoyable because I got posted in Andhra, and I got to actually visit most of the villages and towns of Andhra. That time Chandrababu Naidu's Janmabhoomi program was going on, so there was a lot of I would say construction work going around. So that was a very unique opportunity to go around Andhra. Well, then fast forward, I was moving into sales, and then I got selected in Tata Motors fast track program. So I went through 1 year of, I would say, training, including 4 months at Ahmedabad, because I didn't have an MBA degree. So it was a makeup for that. And then I joined commercial vehicle service with a very specific intent which was given to me for bringing my service experience of a very highly competitive industry of excavators into a commercial vehicle where we were the dominant players, and therefore the fire was not there, right? I think 2 years into that, we did a lot of BPR programs, then got into CRM as a service subject matter expert. Sort of, I would say, found my home, you can say. I quickly took a liking to how to develop and how to service, and whole life cycle management and all of that. And I think 7 years into CRM, 2009, I took over as CIO. And it's been well, Tata Motors is a great organization in the sense that it lets you do what you want. So if you're a mischievous guy like me, or a khurafati guy like me, you have a huge, I would say, landscape where if you have an idea, the kind of diversity and I would say, that largeness of landscape that you have, you would actually do anything.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. So these are, my question was, how did you zoom into the C-level role? So that was to the fast track, to the commercial vehicle, but then into IT as a CIO?
No, so that was like, as I said, I got into CRM program. And it was actually first of its kind in automotive industry that we set up a centralized dealer management come CRM program. And nobody had done that in the world before. Okay? And to an extent it could have been suicidal as well. Okay? And actually for 2 years nothing worked. Okay? Because if you have to think of it, if you have to give an ERP, it's almost like an ERP for a dealer. That means he has to throw his old systems. Networking was not there. Today we have broadband, that time networking was not there. So our first priority suddenly became not to do a CRM, but to actually set up a dealer network, okay, and get those partners to do that. So 2 years it took to do that. Okay. While we were also building the application and all of that. And then, then one thing led to the other. We finally, I think, cracked it after 3 years actually. That we were able to sort of get some big dealers to actually talk about the benefits that are coming from it. And then we really scaled it up. So our initial mandate was 600 dealers, 6,000 users. When I left CRM, we had reached something like 3,500 locations, dealer locations, and something like 30,000 users. Today it stands at about 5,000 and 50,000. The game-changing part of it is that while this was something that nobody had done before, today this is the default model in the auto industry. Yeah, that you have a centralized system which dealers use, and then you basically use the DMS and CRM for addressing your customers jointly with your dealers.
Okay. So that was an innovation, big innovation.
Yeah, and I think that success of CRM actually sort of gave somebody a confidence that a mechanical engineer can still do IT.
So I want to talk a little bit about Tata Motors. So I was just thinking, when you think of Tata Motors, some of the old timers still call it telco. Two or three things come to mind. One is Indica. Second is Horn OK Tata. Some people also now associate Jaguar. And what else is there to Tata Motors that maybe some of us don't know?
Okay. Yeah, actually, as I said, Tata Motors is like, it's a huge, I would say, minefield of experience. So, if a lot of people ask me, 22 years into Tata Motors and I'm not bored, and I'm like, I can stand another 20 years and I will not get bored. Because of the width of it, and naturally then there are so many things that people don't know. Okay, for example, I don't know whether you know that we run two of the foundries.
Oh, okay, all right.
So we are into steel making business. We run two foundries. One of them is in Chinchwad. So as you come from Chinchwad to Pimpri, on the left side, you find Tata Motors, and actually there is a foundry inside.
I was always wondering
And I didn't know, by the way, I didn't know. How I came to know was 2 years back when we ran our IT satisfaction survey. Okay, my lowest score came from something which I didn't know about. That was foundry. And then it was like it shook us, and then we went and we said, okay, we didn't know you, now let's get to know each other. What are your needs? And then they basically had some basic things. And we actually gave them, you won't believe, we gave them a cloud-based application for managing their alloy mix. And I think our relationship hasn't looked back since. So I still know that there is some area there, where we don't know that it exists in Tata Motors.
So, in terms of its positioning as a globally, what I understand is one of the top 4 or 5 commercial vehicle makers of the world, something like that.
That's it. It's I think the 5th largest commercial vehicle maker.
5th largest commercial vehicle. So, this is something that globally, when there are so many global players, in auto industry is one of the top ones to be in, and to get to that position of top 5 commercial makers. Out of here, Pune as a main hub is so we're very happy about that you're here. Can you sort of talk about the auto industry in general, broadly, in terms of, some of us, there is a heavy concentration of IT people here. So that is not what TiE stands for. We're trying to get non-IT, we have some senior and people who are not from IT. But as an auto business, what is its growth? What is the profitability? How do you stack this up globally?
So it's like one of those brick and mortar industries. We are into 2 distinct segments here. One is the car segment and one is the commercial vehicle segment. Most of us actually know much more about cars. They seem to be more exciting. But let me tell you, the truck business is more profitable. But yeah, so I think so these are 2 distinct segments, and this is like one is a B2B and one is a B2C, okay? And therefore there's sometimes they walk or run at a different pace. They have different competitive profiles. So I'll quickly touch upon each one of them. If you look at commercial vehicles, it's B2B. Basically, the product that we are selling to our customer is actually helping him make his livelihood. Okay? Is actually generating employment. Okay? I sell one truck, a driver gets an employment, a cleaner gets an employment, and then and then a whole host of sort of ecosystem around it. Okay? So that's something, unfortunately, also very, very closely tied with the state of the economy, and that's one business which hasn't been doing well. If the economy picks up, which it shows some signs, and as our numbers also sort of indicate, I think that's one business which should start doing well now, coming out of the recovery. Coming to car business, I think that's intense competition, fierce competition. As well, there's another aspect of customer behavior there. If somebody is happy with Tata truck, that means he's making money out of it, right? So he'll buy another Tata truck, then he'll buy another Tata truck. Okay, loyalty becomes very important. I don't think any one of us has any loyalty towards any of the car brands, right? Once you've driven a Maruti, you'll say, come on, next time let me try a Hyundai, and next time let me try a Safari or something like that, right? So that way even the customer profile change. Both of these, the competition is getting very, very intense. I think for at least last 10 years, everybody has been talking about the growth in India and China. And therefore, every global player has been creating strategies about entering India and China, primarily looking at the growth. And therefore, I think profitability is under pressure, customer loyalty is under pressure. And therefore, there's a lot of, I would say, innovation which is required in terms of winning in this market. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say technology as an enabler, but there's a lot of approaches that leverage technology effectively, which are required to win in this marketplace.
Now, I want to sort of touch upon size of the company. One of the things that I was totally awed by was, how many of you been to Tata Motors Pimpri facility? So you know that there is a 3-lane, 6-lane road that goes right into Pimpri, right? And so that gives you the feel for size and scale of the organization. But I want to bring it down to how many desktops, how many laptops, how many software engineers, how many designers they work for Tata Motors. So we get a scale, some feel for scale here.
Okay, I'll be able to give you a feel. I can't tell you the exact numbers. But in Tata Motors, we have about 20,000 laptops and desktops, about, I would say, 25,000 logins. Some people share machines. We support a wide area network which is across 140 locations, 170 links, about 140 locations. We have I think over 1,000 servers, despite having a very simple landscape. We have 2 data centers, a production data center and a disaster recovery data center. We also have a big presence on the cloud, by the way. Yeah. Apart from that, yeah, we have, from a physical business point of view, we have 7 plants. 2 of them in Pune, by the way, and I'm not counting the foundry.
Oh.
So there's a CV plant, there's a PV plant, and then we have Ahmedabad. If I start going clockwise, then I have Ahmedabad, then Pantnagar, Lucknow, Jamshedpur, and then Dharwad. So that's 7 locations. I think each of the plants is generally roughly in the range of about 700,000 acres, so even like almost 7 townships. That's sort of the size that we do.
And you have a design center in UK? Or?
Yeah, so in terms of design, okay, in terms of, so I didn't mention the manpower numbers. I have a team of about 100 IT managers. We are heavily outsourced. So on the outsourcing side, we have another, as I said, I can give you a feel only, about 800 to 1,000 people who do our applications, projects, maintenance. We have 3 ODCs, one in Thane, 2 in Pune. Basically, people sit out of their own offices, not Tata Motors. We have TCS as an infrastructure partner, Tata Technologies as an application partner. And then we work with many other partners also.
So that's the thing that you sort of look after from an IT perspective.
Yeah, suddenly my own job feels a little more important to me.
So in terms of the priority area as a CIO, can you sort of share with us what is on your mind in terms of what you need to do as top 3 or 4 priorities in this whole landscape?
I think long back when I was, thinking through I'm just after taking over as a CIO as our IT strategy. What immediately comes to mind as IT is basically that you have to maintain what you have, right? So then we said, what else? So then we created something like a 2x2, right? Which is so look at it as existing needs and existing technologies, right? And we say, can we push the envelope on one side in terms of getting more out of my existing technologies? We know that we buy the smartphone on its features, we don't use more than 20% of it, right? Same thing with an SAP or any other technology. I mean, if you ask me the wireless we take from you, I don't think we use all the.
No, you're not using
Right,
it.
right, exactly. So that's pushing it on one side. The other side is, if you look at existing needs but requiring new technology. Okay. What that means is the fundamental thought behind that is that we as in our lives as a consumer, okay, we experience technology which is much more advanced than what we experience in our companies. Okay, so that means, but we expect from our companies, right? We expect them to give us a chat solution, a Skype type of thing, etc., right? So I will call it as a consumerization of IT. So we use so many mobile apps, right? So that means they will expect stuff to be available on a mobile app. Why do I have to go to desktop for this thing? So I call it as a consumerization, latent needs that we need to address. So we said that's one play that we need to have. And then finally, new capabilities and new technologies is something, where we have innovation. So, but I think we play in all the areas. For example, the stuff that we are trying to do on the, that 80% of what we do, which is like maintain the existing infrastructure, we feel that even there is a lot of innovation possible there. So we are actually, so one of our biggest priorities is to make it into what I call as municipal services. That means, see, municipal services means, you don't recognize that, I'm getting those services, right? If the road is clean, you don't think that, somebody has cleaned it. If water comes into your house, so why should IT services be visible? So you have to do a number of things there. For example, adopt ITIL, have some high performance outsourcing contracts, right? Maybe adopt cloud so that you don't have to worry about capacities and patches, etc., etc. So there's a number of things which are possible there to deliver citizen services to our employees. And there's a lot that we look at doing with our partners as well as engaging with our businesses to make more out of our technologies. Especially one of the big areas which we have there in terms of getting more out of our investments is actually analytics.
Analytics?
Because we have invested quite a lot, but if you look at, do we use all the data? No. On this side, it's all about apps, it's about, doing some cloud-based collaboration services. We have a mobility strategy where we try to understand what mobility is, and then, very quickly we figure out that, listen, you're not in the business of making mobile apps. Okay? Because if I make a mobile app, then I have to make, versions of it which will support 4 versions of Android, 3 versions of iOS, all kinds of form factors, and then a lot of testing around it to secure the user experience and all of that. So it will like more, I think we'll go for third-party apps. Somebody will maintain it, somebody will update it. That's an interesting take we have on mobility. So we're looking at adding those kind of capabilities here. And finally, on the innovation front, I think that's where we are doing a lot in terms of. I would say we would be early adopters of IoT. So we have telematics fitted vehicles running out there, and we are looking at, I'm getting I think we're getting some terabytes and terabytes of data every month, and we're looking at, what can we do with it. So we're looking at big data to make sense out of that data, and how can we create either value-added services, or how can we think of something like data services, coming out of that. We are looking at a completely different dimension of IoT in terms of, let's say, using it in plants. So our aggregate investments in plant and machinery would be in excess of 25-30,000 crores, right? That's the kind of, and I said, we are running big estates actually. We're not running plants, we're running 800,000 acre estates around 6-7 places. Okay. So I think that's like, when you look at smart cities, that's one thing that, we need to get towards.
Exactly.
So there are a number of these things, and then, we already have I would say as a cloud first principle. So we no more build on-prem, anything on-prem. We typically look for something on the cloud, and if we don't get, then we look at, okay, can I do it on something like a platform as a service? So these are some of the areas.
What are the, I just want to sort of attest to this, what he's saying. About 5 years back, when we first walked into Tata Motors to talk about what then ATAG could offer, one of the first comment came is, if you're going to bring appliance and put it to every location, we are not interested. We're interested in things where Jamshedpur, Pimpri, even our UK center could be hosted on a cloud. So this is this is like 2010, August, September, if I can remember the date right. So I think the vision and the strategy has been there from that. So what is it a startup can do for you? Let's say if I say there is so and so, Jagdish who's been in IoT for a long period of time. We have, some of our members are working in analytics. And sometimes, we are working on things, we don't know who will use them. So what is it that you would pick from there that either, or you have areas where you think a startup can deliver in that area which an established vendor or established brand in the marketplace globally that cannot give you? But that's what they will all be interested in.
I think that's a very important and relevant question for this forum. I'll start with the other side of it first. I was sharing with Kiran that I get something like at least about 20-30 mails from startups on a weekly basis, okay, wanting to sell something to me. And nowadays the pitch is getting sharper. Then I get, Jagdish, I sent you an email. You haven't responded. I'm like, hey, are you my wife? And all kinds of variants of strategies to get attention and all of that. And I think, see, I'll go to the fundamental role of technology. And this is a question that I asked my guys. See, I can ask those questions because I'm a mechanical engineer. Okay, I said, what is the role of IT division, right? So the first question is, are you here to create technology as IT, as my function, right? And the answer is no, that's for, let's say, an SAP or an Oracle to create, right? Or for all of you guys to create, right? What is my role as IT? And I kept asking that question, and I think finally the answer that we got was to simplify processes. Is to make our enterprise processes more efficient. Okay. And now think of it, how can you make something more efficient if you don't even know about it? Now you can contextualize my statement about 30 people, like getting 30 mails and not looking at it. So, see, there's a basic mantra of success which can never become old, okay, which is customer intimacy. Know your customer. Okay. It's not that any one of you can solve all the problems of Tata Motors, right? But is there a problem, which is like benign? I have learned to live with it. Okay, we have accepted that as a basic inefficiency. Okay, and you know what? It is not even in my radar. At the size of a company like Tata Motors, right? This could be significant. Okay. Now, do you have it in you to look for these opportunities where, and see, it's a fairly open world today. Earlier we used to have everywhere, we used to have darbans on information, right? And getting information was hard. But today it is not. I mean, if you have to figure out, let's say, who works in Tata Motors, where I can get to, where I can get an idea, I don't think you have to work very hard. Right? All the WhatsApp, Facebook and everything, you can very easily figure out. Okay? And, finding an idea for yourself is not stealing information, right? So, can you take a problem, okay, study it hard enough? When you develop, first thing before you come to innovation, you must develop a perspective, right? What am I going to solve? Okay, again, I'm saying that even when you're doing something, even when you're innovating or developing a technology solution or something, it is in the context of solving a problem, okay? And the solving a problem can't be problem alone. That problem is there because of lots of other stuff out there, right? So what I typically see, where I sort of take a call, do I need to take this conversation forward or not, is the level of sophistication you can bring to the table in terms of your understanding of my problem. Your solution need not be perfect. The solution may not be perfect, but you understand my problem. And Kiran mentioned this. I think back then, everybody was doing Wi-Fi, right? So we said, listen, I can do Wi-Fi, but if I have to scale up to the level of what we do as Tata Motors, there are a number of other things that we need to do. Okay, and I think then we went to Airtight, and they had that. I'm sure it is because Kiran, you had managed some large enterprises and you knew the level of sophistication existing in enterprises. We said yes, all the check boxes were ticked. Like for example, there has to be device level authentication. For example, it has to be easy. If I'm registered in Pune, my Wi-Fi should be pervasive. If I go to Bombay, the same Wi-Fi should work, okay, with the same SSID. If I go to Jamshedpur, wherever I go, that same Wi-Fi should connect automatically, right? And then there has to be it has to be server managed, and etc. etc. I think recently it went on till a level, and then then sort of tapered off. And simple thing like, for example, I don't know how many of you know that in corporates, capex gets treated differently, opex gets treated differently. Okay, and we came across this wall called capex. Okay? That you can't deploy Wi-Fi because it is capex, and then you actually break your heads, coming across this problem where all the users and all the satisfaction surveys are saying, where is Wi-Fi in my conference room? So we came to Airtight. I somehow forget Mozo, time and again, because for 6 years I have known them as Airtight. So we came back to Airtight and we said, listen, can you bring scalability into Wi-Fi? Okay. And they were willing to give us a managed services model, okay, fully recognizing the whole, again this sophistication around how budgets are assigned, etc. etc. And they were able to give us a very, very attractive managed services model, okay, where I just need to tell them, cover this, they come back with the plan, they execute it, and from next month they start billing us. And that's, I think, that's a scorching the pace. Airtight deployments in Tata Motors is like just happening at a scorching pace now.
It's actually, I think, very important. I just want to share, he's been very modest with what Tata Motors have done. When we first went there, it was conference rooms in different places. So some of my people, say, conference room kar rahe hain. So I asked a very simple question, if you were putting your money on the table in 9 different locations, what would you ask question? So everybody understood that. They picked up a program for warehouse automation, which I was absolutely blown over with. And the program was, as he said, you sell a truck. Now when you sell a truck, I'm sure you sell the auto parts with that truck. Because that truck is a profit unit. So it needs to be maintained well. And therefore you need the auto parts in proper inventory. And it was a risky proposition. Even someone like me who's generally a risk taker, I asked a question, will it work or not? And they were with us. We picked one warehouse, second warehouse. We went through the whole process. And today I think it is a standard operating process today in 3-4 years. So they actually work with, and we were not, I mean, it is today 5-6 years, but when we started this, we didn't know how to spell each other's, you know, the first 3 or 4 initials as companies. So they have been very good at building it. I think one of the things I would mention to you is that not just the CIO, but the rest of the DNA in the organization that I have personally experienced is, if you have a solution, if you're ready to understand my problem, and can you work out, like CapEx, OpEx was an innovation. Somebody from procurement said, can you put together a quarterly payment plan, monthly payment plan? I gave all the options. I asked myself, can I do it? Yes, I can do it. I'm a funded company, I can do that. So simple things like that can help you grow. Now I want to sort of...
I must also say that there have been many times where we have told them, we have this idea, can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the customer intimacy in terms of, it's also about pushing your own boundaries, right? So they have never, I don't think when Airtight has ever come back with the answer no. Sometimes it has taken more time than, our tolerance. So, but the answer has never been no.
And it's possible to do that. That's the thing. I want to pick up a couple of points on the conversation because, we were talking about user experience in software. And coming from software background, I'm actually sometimes quite, indebted to people, end users who pay us in spite of churning out some fairly shitty user interfaces. And to give you my own perspective, I didn't share because we ran the end of our conversation. He had to go for dinner, I had to go for something. In user interaction, we are as if an automobile was turned on in the 50s. That is the level of sophistication we have. We have mouse, we have keyboards, we have all kinds of hindrances between people and computers, plus the software. So, the A-type program, I'll use that word that is comfortable with that. That program within Tata Motors is now also hitting the dealerships. And given his dealership experience, he was at a dealer and he looked at our console and he was telling me, this is way behind. So I said, this is meant for a network administrator, not for someone in dealership. So, would you want to talk about the user interaction? What you're expecting from them?
I think, when they say digital, nowadays everybody talks digital, right? And some of the interesting conversations we have in IT is like, if you replace whatever people talk about digital, you just replace digital by IT, right? It's like old wine in new bottle. Well, I think I have a perspective. There's some things about digital which are different. And I think the biggest of them is experience, is user experience. If you can call yourself digital, okay, if you can provide a fantastic user experience, not just a software experience, not just a hardware experience, but an overall experience, okay. So what had happened was, we came across this idea that if my dealership is present on Facebook, places of business, and then people can check in on Facebook on my dealership. I can give them a free Wi-Fi. So it's like a good quid pro quo. That I give you Wi-Fi. Okay, you connect with me on Facebook, and therefore, then I can do some more personalized, insightful selling to you. So I myself went to the dealership and I generally had a chat with him, how it is working. I mean, we had not done the solution yet. I said, so, how's this idea? Then the first thing that I asked is that, do you have a Wi-Fi at dealership and do you give the access to the user, to customers? And they said, yes, we have a Wi-Fi and we actually, somebody asked for it. In fact, nowadays more and more people, the first thing they come into the showroom and they ask for it, Wi-Fi. And we give them the login. I said, what do you get in return? Nothing. Right? I said, if we do this solution, will you do it? Okay. I think we're still struggling in terms of driving value out of it, and I'll talk about it probably later, or maybe offline. But anyway, we came back and we said, can you do a Facebook check-in for us? And then, we had some interactions. We set up a WhatsApp group to solve that problem. And, they said, listen, the Indian regulators say that you need a KYC, you need at least a mobile number. So we said, no problem. Do a mobile number, PIN authentication, but let's make it happen. So they made it happen. I got a confirmation that it has been solved. It's operating. So then I said, listen, I mean, again, something that doesn't grow old is something called Gemba. How many of you know what is Gemba? Okay. So Gemba is basically on the ground, okay, at the place of action. Okay. So I said, I want to experience it myself. So I went to the dealership and then, I opened my mobile and I tried to connect, and then we had some issues. So then they said, listen, so we are in a conference room on the mezzanine and this is downstairs. I said, okay, we'll sit in the showroom on a table that you have for customer interaction, we'll see it. And then I went through the same experience again, and then I was like, no, this is not what I wanted. Because, those are like, see, let's be fair. I think Kiran's engineers spent a good amount of time and effort, okay, in solutioning it. Okay. But the analogy I gave him day before yesterday was that, you built the entire building, you forgot to do the interiors. The user experience.
Very, very.
So I think that's something, and all aspects of user experience personally tested, okay, is something that I think is a must, and that's something you can't help, because today, whether it's businesses, whether it is consumers, everybody expects you to deliver an ease of doing things for him. And let me give you my favorite on this, and this is something that I keep challenging my teams around. And this is like Apple could be one example that you could actually connect with this philosophy. Okay, it is that the sum total of crap in an ecosystem is always constant. So the sum total of crap in the ecosystem is always constant. Okay, you can decide how much of it to keep on the customer side and how much of it to keep on your side. The successful people are who are able to take most of the crap on their side, okay, and leave the least amount of it on the customer side.
It's a very important, just to give you an idea, our interface is considered as ease of use. And when I tell my engineers, yeah, वो तो बहुत simple है, तुम्हारे लिए simple है. Pandit Auto or Concord, their business is not Wi-Fi. Their business is dealership. So can it disappear? And that is, I think, those are some of the things that are very important. You're part of the CIO Angel Network. And investment is something that we are all very curious, keen and interested about. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so my driver for becoming a part of the CIO Angel Network was basically to connect with the innovation ecosystem, and that's also my reason of coming here. See, Tata Motors is an innovative company, fairly innovative company. We have created, path-breaking segments. We have created markets where none existed, and I think so. It's in our DNA. But then the pace of change which is set today, I don't think it's the Oracles and SAP who are innovating. I'm sure they are, right? But then the streams and I would say the vectors of innovation have simply gone wild. Thanks to all of you, okay? Because the cost of innovating and the cost of failure is so low. Okay, so it's like you can set up something, it doesn't work, get out, and you wouldn't have really lost your life savings. For me as CIO of Tata Motors, I need to bring innovations to Tata Motors. Okay. And I can't bring innovations to Tata. My ability to bring innovations to Tata Motors will be limited if I don't connect with this network. Okay. The next thing is that I believe, and I always keep pushing my people, eat your own dog food. Okay. The thing is that if my conviction in doing something, bringing something to Tata Motors, I want to put my money on that. And sort of that's that's how it logically connects. Yeah, but what I have seen we have been in operations. CIO Angel Network primarily focuses on B2B, and typically the difference, I think it's very intuitive. You would know that the way CIOs will evaluate a technology, and especially for their adaptability to enterprises, etc., is not something that a typical investor with a few kokas of money can do that. So we bring that kind of a perspective, and I think whatever I have seen in the last more than 1 year, we've evaluated about something like 30-40 companies. I've invested in 3 of them, and I'm simply awed by what's happening out there. It's phenomenal.
So, just coming to the end of our conversation, when you open it with everyone, will you hear the proposition? We have, for example, you talked about IoT. We have a company, a couple of companies in IoT space. Interestingly, there is a group that has worked, very interesting, innovative company where design and software have been put together. So the focus is on design, user interface, user interaction, etc. I'm a little bit old dog on that front because if I go back to computer science and there is no language for user interaction. There is language for logic, but there is no language. And just to share with you, I think one of the very early PhDs came out of IIT Bombay last year. And some of that work was, my contribution to that was to encourage the PhD from that perspective. So if we would like you to come more here, either in mentoring or in angeling or looking at potential, or we could pull this together and share it with you or your team, saying here is what my entrepreneurs are, would you be interested? Can we create a program like that?
Yeah, of course, it's not without caveats. The only thing is that I think it's difficult to manage a calendar. My calendar gets full. It's like running 2 weeks. It keeps getting full. So every time I look at my calendar, it's full for the next 2 weeks. So we are living in a busy world. There's a huge amount of information. I would say overload. Okay. And I think it's actually testing human limits. If you ask me, that's a thought comes to my mind many times. Is that handling so much of, I would say, overload and complexity and everything. Can I get that sweet idea when I become an entrepreneur? I make my pot of gold. I can retire and play golf. I haven't come across any such idea. So that's like my dream as well. But I know as an entrepreneur, life is not easy, and I think that's sort of why I told you this is not to tell you I'm a busy man, but this is to tell you what you're up against. If you're going to address a business to business, business like ours, right? I think the first challenge that you have is not the acceptability of idea; it is actually to get the mind share or to get some interest generated. I don't have a solution to that. I am willing to I'm willing to participate in this forum. But as I said earlier also, right? Can you develop a mature perspective, okay, on what's automotive, what are the typical issues or where are opportunities, okay? And I think there are some simple things that you can do. You can have elevator pitches, or you can have like You can send us a 2-slider, what you can do and all of that. So there are multiple ways to do this. Unfortunately, going through an hour-long pitch is not one of those. So it's like, it's almost like, and I think in India we have this typical problem where, to get 5,000 people into IITs, you have to actually evaluate, a million copies. And you may make mistakes there as well. And I think we have the same problem, especially with the busyness of the executives. So I think that's one problem, which I think I must say you must brainstorm, okay, as to how to create that powerful, perspective which can be communicated and get somebody interested.
Nobody interested, yeah.
Purely coming from, I would say whatever I have seen, some of the things where I'll tell you what I see commodity and I'll tell you what I see rare. Okay. What I see commodity is people building apps. Okay. What I see commodity is people identifying issues, okay, and trying to solve it with a combination of app and something. Right. What I don't see is people connecting it to the realities of life. Okay, to bring that to test your hypothesis or solution into an actual process and the various variants of it. The biggest thing which I don't see, okay, and I can tell you, in 5 minutes if you have to convince me to talk to you for the next 1 hour, then one simple thing will be analytics. People are doing a lot of things, people are building a lot of solutions. The value comes out of the insights you get out of something. The value comes out of the analytics you get out of it. Okay? For example, when we were doing IoT, our guys built a lot of experiments, and then we said, so you open a curtain, light sensor, something will stop working. You close the curtain, something will start working. I said, fair enough. Okay. Show me what decision you make from this. Because end of the day, I think in corporates, it's all about decision making. Right? And where all of this community can help us in making better decisions. Okay? So I told you about that engagement, which was in processes. Okay? You want to take it one level higher, talk decisions. Technology has to help in making better decisions.
Jagdish, one of the things, and this is probably we'll open it for Q&A. As a part of our nurture program, we expect the companies to put the pitch in at times 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and 1 or 2 slides. So we do a dry run and we actually stop and we give a watch. So anything that comes to you, if we feel is worthy, will come as a 1 slider or 1 pager. So that we have been practicing very well. So people start with a lot of stuff, then they drill it down. Sometimes even 1 pager doesn't help you look at the problem from problem solving. It talks about technology but without the problem. But at least you've got it down to that. So I think let's open it for the...
I must confess one thing. When he asked me that question, the last question, I was completely blank. And I actually kept talking and thinking, and then finally I said, yeah, that's a sweet spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Swapnil Kale, and thank you for coming here. It's very inspirational for us as entrepreneurs to listen to you. I'm in an Indian startup, and we have technology where you can start your car with a fingerprint. And Mr. Kiran Deshpande was my first mentors in the first TiE nurture thing. Then of course I went to move to UK, and now I am funded in UK. And we have a technology where we're selling to Audi cars right now. You can start a car with a fingerprint, and then now we have a letter of intent. Last year that came from Ferrari. I went to your London office at Tata Technologies, and I said, Tata Motors, that's very nice, the whole Tata building and Victoria and all that. But I didn't know whom to approach and how exactly to go around talking to people at Tata about the whole technology. I wrote few mails, but I didn't get back. And I suppose I don't know whether I should be asking this question, but you represent Tata, and it's about biometric technology. You can replace a key and start with a fingerprint and takes part of the auto theft, passively. And so I don't know how to go around and all, but maybe something which I should.
No, I think very important question, and I hate to answer that, but I'll still answer that. I think And this is something that I challenge people, I mean, let's get to now the basics of, what you do. I mean, how do you sell technology?
So right now, the technology transferring license is with Audi in Germany and Volkswagen Group.
No, so I'm saying that the
Is a license that we have. The license
so no, I'm coming to the process of selling what you have. Okay, I mean, is it through emails? Okay, or is it through cold calls? Okay, or is there something else that works with enterprises?
So right now we are networking basically. We have prototypes of products that we demonstrate at auto shows. Sometimes go and meet the company technology officers. Like we went and met the technology center at Reno in Chennai, and we talked to the VP of Reno Chennai, Mr. Robert, and 5 of his people, and then we demonstrate how the technology is, and then they go back and forth between the engineers, the design, and then later on we adopt the prototype, and then how the technology is adopted.
So I think the answer is on both sides. I mean, actually, it set me thinking that like if anybody has to approach Tata Motors, he may have a bright idea. What's my process of addressing it.
Okay.
Frankly, we have none, so we need to sort of think about how to get this in place. But otherwise, I mean, I actually hinted about it in my, in one of the earlier conversations with Kiran, which is that. It's a social world. It's a networked world, right? I mean, actually, you can work your way back if you are looking for, let's say, somebody from Tata Motors, right? You can actually go search somewhere, and then using LinkedIn and all of that, you can actually work back to as to how we are connected. LinkedIn tells you, one this thing away, or 2 connections away, or 3 connections away. Okay, I guess something similar you can find, on other areas also. But I think the process of selling, I don't think will become digital ever, especially in B2B areas. It will always be through network. Okay, it will be always, sort of maybe through recommendations many times. But end of the day, why it is like this and why it is not through emails or phone calls? The answer I gave you is because people just don't have time.
Thanks.
I'll come
This
to
is
you.
Nitin Dhamma, and thank you for coming over here. You mentioned about startups and use respect for startups, and you also mentioned on the other side that Tata Motors, you consider that they are the business of managing the huge real estate or properties or estate that you talked about. So, what do you see Tata Motor as? Is it a kind of startup kind of culture, or is it more of the legacy conglomerate kind of culture where you have 25,000 people and then several processes involved, or is it more nimble now because market dynamics are changing? You are global in nature.
Unfortunately for the deep shit that we have been in last 3-4 years, it's hard to say we are innovative, but I must say that we are innovative. It's actually, they say that if the pace of change outside is more than the pace of change inside, then you will lag behind, right? So I'm still to take a view whether we are lagging or leading the change, but the answer to your question is that we are innovative. Okay, a large organization like Tata Motors will have its own normal curve, from least innovative to most innovative. I think Tata Motors, the curve will be slightly right shifted towards more innovative. So actually, people are looking at, I mean, everybody is looking around, how do I cut my cost? How do I improve my efficiencies? How do I build better products? How do I create products which appeal to customers? So if you see some of our newer products, they are fairly, I would say, competitive and fairly experience driven, if I may call it, right? So it is there, but yeah, I mean, it's just that you're running on a treadmill and the speed is increasing every time.
See, as a vendor or as a company that is doing business with many organizations, if I were to put Tata Motors, they are way right on the spectrum for 2-3 things. Obviously, his first question, how do I get attention of someone to listen to me, is a challenge for all of us, and that's a challenge in sales. But once you do that and you establish your first milestone, then what I have seen personally is that while you push what you can offer, which brings value, they will pull you. I mean, I have had conference calls where somebody from business, and first time I asked, "Itne sare log kyun conference call mein?" Then I went and found out who all were there. They were very active, so they will take you forward on that front. Obviously, you have to have the business benefits in mind. So cost cutting, bringing innovation, bringing these, those are very important. So I think it is. I'm sure there are processes which are very, when you have 20,000 people, the processes have to set in. My organization with 250 people has different processes today than maybe 6 years back when we were about 80 engineers.
I'm still thankful for the first meeting that I had with you at TiE Nurture, and then I'm going to UK.
So you mentioned at least twice analytics as being a very strong area of potential, right? Now if I consider an organization like Tata Motors, analytics in itself is an ocean, right? So if I split that up into maybe 4 or 5 different areas, I mean you might have analytics related to your order management, related to that you might have demand forecasting, might have your own internal production planning and production analytics, or the orders that you release on your vendors and your, optimizing the inventories there. So, do you look upon it as, if we split it up into 5 or 6 different areas like this, are there specific focus areas for analytics for Tata Motors, or?
So, when I said analytics, I'll
Okay.
explain the context of it. So, we have these SAP and SQL and, SAP HR and all of that, right? And the traditional method was that all of these guys would also give you their own BI products, right? So, SAP will give you an ERP, they also give you a BW, right? SQL will give you a SQL and a SQL analytics, which became OBI afterwards, okay? So, I'm not really talking about that area. That area is like at rest. That area at best for entrepreneurs, if you're looking at old legacy, I'll call SAP as a legacy now. So you're looking at those typical areas, what I call them as systems of records kind of processes. I think it's at best a services business. When I look at new age solutions, okay, whether it is mobility solutions or whether it is let's say this IoT solutions around plant maintenance or telematics or any of the new solutions that that we generally talk about from an innovation point of view, right? I was more talking about that. Are you able to, when you're designing the solution, are you able to design the solution from a decision point of view?
Small follow-up. So, when you said that portion is addressed, right? So, for instance, we've made visits with a number of the Tata vendor network, right? So, one of the foremost complaints, of course, amongst the directors of vendor network is order fluctuations, right? So, it's from that angle. So, if I came, from that perspective, right? So, if one were to say, hey, demand forecasting, if one could come with a really sound algorithm for demand forecasting, something like that. So, approaching it from such a perspective, would you still say that, as in, there still be opportunities? That's one area, demand forecasting, that I'm asking about. The other is helping optimize your suppliers' finished goods inventory and your raw material inventories. If we came to you and said, hey, we have a solution that can help you optimize those inventories even further, would such pitches also catch your attention?
See, end of the day, it will be about the innovativeness in that idea, right? And that see, let me ask a different question. So, is there a dearth of forecasting tools in the world? No. Is there a dearth of supply chain management tools in the world? No. Right? Why is the problem still there? Right? It's because they are not the ones you can apply easily. They're not intuitive, right? right? It will take you, let's say, a 10-month, process to put something in place, okay? So I don't know whether it's possible or not, but let's say in the areas when I do this analysis of, is there something already available, right? Why is it not happening? The first question to ask is if the problem is there, the answer is not in the technology. The answer is in why it is not happening. Do you have any idea or IP in that area which can simply accelerate it? Okay. So if it were to take me 5 crores rupees, I probably haven't done it because it would take me some 5 or 10 crores rupees to fix a forecasting issue, and somewhere it doesn't come into my priorities. I'll give you some insight into the corporate decision making processes. Is that when you see something is not happening, right, or I see this problem area, okay, it's not that the people don't know it. The typical any company, and I think anywhere, even in our personal lives, right, our demands are much more than what we can afford. Okay. In Tata Motors, every year I generate a demand of 250 projects. Okay. And we do only some 50 to 100, depending on what is the money available. Next year, this pipeline was emptied, so 250 became 200, right? Another 50 or 60 add up, okay? And all the while, each of these projects is actually fighting for prioritization. Okay? So therefore, in a corporate, you will find enough problems. Okay? And most of them have probably lost out in terms of priority to something else. And the priority is decided by, what value it adds to the organization. So there are two parts of that equation. There's a cost part of that equation, there's a value part of that equation. An organization may not be doing something because that equation doesn't balance. Right? The project is losing out because the value perception, either the cost is very high, okay, or the value perception is low. Okay? If you can flip the equation, you can make it so easy to do, okay, that anybody can fund it. Okay. You get your answer.
Thank you.
I had an opportunity to work with Tata Motors for services export product.
Okay.
I'm Bharat Muzurkar, so I worked as a business architect. So a couple of points. I think you have touched upon it, but I'm just putting, I worked for like global guys on supply chain.
Just
Hold it
bring it
close.
close to your mouth.
Yeah. So I think
Just get the mic closer.
I have implemented on Amazon server first in Tata Motors. I worked in like US, China, Australia, but Tata Motors was the first who gave us opportunity to put it on Amazon server. We were scared. Your team was excellent to give us support. I think you remember at that time. I'm sure a lot of.
I only remember. And this risk was brought to me that, listen, Services hasn't been done on a AWS server. I said, so what? You're just putting up a development server. It's not going to cause a crisis. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Right. So I think that is the part one. When you are talking about innovation, and the biggest innovation was, as you were saying, right? You were bringing up dealer network, and we have also done the sort of first time, like in this big scale, that we have got the dealer network itself on the planning, centralized for Tata Motors. So the thing is, Tata Motors was helping the dealers to manage their inventory, optimize their level, and I think I must call it as an innovation itself at this level. Like there was a vision. So I mean, I'm very glad to be part of it, of course. So.
Glad to have Jagdish here.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's why. I mean, seriously, I saw that name and I said, okay, I'm going to make it.
We're
So
running
my
short of
question.
time now, so I want to give some opportunity for some questions here. So, Panchu,
Hello, my name is Jayant. I'm from Get My Solution Private Limited. Fortunately, actually, I worked in last 15 years in the automotive industry, in automotive electronics, and could get to a lot of OEMs, could work with a lot of OEMs for different ECUs designed from the scratch. One thing which I could find is like IT is not only the IT like managing the what do you call the plants or managing all of the things.
there's a lot of IT coming into the automotive. Like there is a, like OnStar, right? So there is a IT into the infotainment side, which is coming into the automotive, which is a customer experience. A lot of things are coming because of the customer experience. So there's a lot of IT inside that. Secondly, the diagnostics parts, the onboard diagnostics, which is there, OBD is there. So we have the OBD connectors which goes
So
on.
what is your question?
My question is like, apart from the normal IT, is also Tata Motors looking at the IT which goes inside the car, like the infotainment system, the diagnostic systems, and the testing, the analysis part of the inside the data. Then, for example, I am driving my car. If there is any service fault comes through my onboard diagnostic, it goes through the GSM. The service guy knows which part is gone wrong. It is ready by the time the car goes there. Immediately goes there, part gets replaced. It's a customer experience. So, is there something coming up? Is there some scope in that?
Yeah, so good question. I think we are working in all those areas. So there's much more IT, which is going everywhere, and the typical debate that we keep having inside is that, and there are so many startups as well that everybody is talking to, people about IT. What do we do? I said, listen, this is a digital world. It's a social world. You can't stop anybody. Okay. The thing is that it makes our job difficult. That we need to be ready for stitching something which comes up. Okay. Coming to so this is like I'm saying my perspective, where I need to be ready for anybody bringing something and saying this is fantastic. Can we integrate it? Right. So I need to have an architecture which allows it. Okay. So that's being proactive. Coming to your question around, are we doing all of this? Yes, we are doing all of this. Okay. Have we cracked it? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. The thing is that as we go around doing it, okay, we come across. This is full of problems, full host of issues. So can you? First thing, when we talk to you, I don't think it will take anybody in Tata Motors, somebody working in this area. I see everybody is focusing on it. So the thing is that there's nothing new in this world. The only thing new are ideas. Okay. So OBD and OBD based devices, that's not new. Okay. My people also know it. Right. The thing is that do you know the subject good enough that you can, and do you have that idea which will say, let's talk.
We'll take one last question.
I only had a quick suggestion based on whatever I've heard so far. So obviously there is a need, you obviously are welcoming ideas that could solve real problems that you as company are facing, and you realize that startups could play a role in that. And on the other hand, you also expressed a challenge that it is very hard from a time management perspective, and there is a flood of things that come your way. So perhaps, one of the startups can build a little portal for you, which actually can describe, you actually identify the areas in which the solutions can come. Like for example, is it to do with production? Is it to do with, analytics on, ERP? Is to do with infotainment? It's to do with whatever it is, right? 10, 20 different areas. And really go through a little bit of a structured questionnaire, which the startups can actually pitch in a structured way, and for you to make more sense of what kind of companies you want to engage with, based on what problem are they solving, how they are solving it different from other established solutions, what is the innovation they think they are bringing to the system. And if you look at all that in a structured way, and then it kind of allows you to separate a bit from the shaft for you to kind of look at them more closely. Something like that also could be an approach which will allow you to address the scale at which the companies are coming to you for with their solutions, and what your priorities are and what you think you want to kind of take a look at. So is that something that would make sense for you?
The only thing is that, as I said, there are inefficiencies that we have taken as given. Right? So see, many times. And you don't even acknowledge it as an area of inefficiency. I'll give you a small example, okay? So in all of our offices, we have these food coupons, right? Which you give to your employees for having lunch, right? We never thought this is an area of inefficiency. One fine day, a startup came and said, listen, I can give you a mobile app and I can replace these coupons, and these are the 3 problems it solves for you. You don't have to revalidate your coupons, okay? You don't have to manage the entire logistics around those coupons, okay? And though I may not be there in terms of signing up the number of restaurants there, I have a process in place, okay, to sign up restaurants. You go to a restaurant who doesn't accept my app, okay? You take the bill, take a picture, upload it, I'll go and approach it and sign up. I mean, beautiful. He has understood, he has identified a problem, he has developed a solution, he has developed the deficiencies of that solution compared to the current market leader, okay? And he has also developed a process where you say that, listen, I mean, this problem will be there only for a month, okay? Where could I use my coupons? Around around my office only, okay? Well, one of us has to go to one of the restaurants only once for them to sign him up. Okay? I mean, if you ask me, can I put this kind of a inefficiency on a portal? It will be very hard. Okay. So I think we can do that, but a lot of these, believe me, the 200 out of 250 that don't get prioritized, okay, are still problems. Okay? But I'm not sure whether somebody will put them on a portal.
I think one of the things,
I personally have experienced sitting sometimes as a CEO listening to people out preaching. We get very closely attached to our offering, all the great gizmos we have, but not about what problem it is solving. So you spend a little more time on that side, which is in the mind, in the approach, and also an art. Also an art. I mean, food coupon automation, somebody said chaos. Chaos when it solves the problem. So I think that is the line that you can cross everywhere. I'll give you an example. I was in Delhi yesterday, and somebody from Ofcom came. And last weekend I almost went, and I probably know about Ofcom website better than many of the Ofcom people. And what that guy liked was, obviously he said, well, your product is good. I have no reason not to believe it, because I hadn't heard of your company. But you told me so many things about Ofcom that I had not myself read. So the fact that I went through Ofcom website was good enough for me that I'm interested, that he's interested. Sometimes, especially entrepreneurs who are very smart and get very close to their product, sometimes miss this point. That's my 2 cents.
I think we have one more last question.
Can I just have one more observation? I'm sort of being maybe harsh and I may become unpopular, but having evaluated about 30-40 startups, I mean, I have a fundamental problem with the thought process. I'm not saying all of you have it, but sometimes, okay, and a lot of times what I have seen, okay, is that I come up with something, okay, I grow it to an extent, sell it off. Okay. Let me tell you, any angel investor can read that thought without you even having to make a pitch. It's very easy. So if you're serious about building it, so let's say if you don't get funding, okay, if you're still willing to scale it up, you're still willing to put your, अंदर की तरफ पैर अड़ा करके you can. So the thing is that the fundamental issue here is that are you investing in the horse or are you looking at the cart? I mean, the horse is your offering, right? Your solution. That has to come not from the investing point of view. That has to come from solving a customer's problem point of view, right? The cart comes later. So it's almost like that I can make money only if I work hard. Or it is like if I make money then I don't have to work hard. So which statement is more strong. I mean, this was just an observation which I thought is important, and people are aware of it, and I just thought I'd say.
Okay. We have one more last question.
So we'll take it. Yeah.
One last question, this is the last question. You'll be quick with the question.
Sure. My name is Kamlesh. The question is related to the decision making and analytics. So how much weighted would you give to something like a predictive analytics, which would use telematics data to predict the failure for on-road car conditions before the failure happens? Like, would you do a safety recall before a failure happens, when a predictive analytics solution would say that failure is going to happen? How much weightage would you give to that?
I mean, absolutely, absolutely, because this is like, this exactly is a project that is going on inside. I mean, and it's at a POC stage, and I'm funding it. I'm not going to business to fund it. I'm personally funding and overseeing a project which will do this for me. Okay? The thing is that when I say this, okay, I guess you need to match up my level of sophistication, okay, and understanding of the problem, and understanding the dimensions of where the solutions are going to come from. And if I see any, I would say, and if I don't see you 100 meters deep there, I think it will be hard to sustain a conversation. Because everybody is looking at it, think about it.
Jagdish, thank you very much. It's been very insightful, and I think I'm really grateful that I think last week we met twice, which we had not met in the last 1 year. Thank you very much. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Firstly, thanks to Mr. Jagdish Belwal for your valuable time and deep insights. And this is the first of the program Corporate Connect, which actually exposes to the decision making at the top. And it's very serious, time is very precious. Close it very fast. So I also thank Mr. Kiran Deshpande having a very nice chat, and it is very interactive, as all you can see. And I would like to thank Mr. Nilesh More for introducing about TiE, and very good listeners, all of you, very patient, and I hope everybody takes a lot of insights from this event. And thanking you all, charter members, volunteers, to make this happen. And I would request all of you who are not members, kindly become members and actually gain more knowledge.
I want to make a point before we close. Is about exits. As I said, I'm an angel investor. We do look at exits. And the thing is that, as I said, cart is also important. Cart is my motivation to in the startups. But then, the confidence in the cart comes from the solidness of the horse.
Excellent. Thank you all.